Hi folks, how you doing? Tarmac here. For those of you who are used to my channel, hope you enjoyed that little trip to Monte Carlo I did in my last video with the jazz and all that. That was good fun to make. If you're not used to my channel, hello. If you like these videos and you find them useful or entertaining, because that's entertainment. Sorry, I was thinking of Paul Weller. Anyway, yeah, you can click the subscribe button down below the video, and that will update you as to when I do new ones. You can come and say hello in the comments, tell me what you think. Today, I'm going to have a look at an update that dropped for Automobilista 2 by Reza Studios, because they updated it last night with version 1.1.2.5, which is rather a small update, about 250 odd megabytes, but nevertheless important. They're always important, Reza updates. They do so much in one small update. Even with this one, we've got 2 new cars. But I think it's the precursor to something much bigger, because if you look in the game, down on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen here, it says version 1.1.2.4.1571.avx. Doesn't say version 1.5. So I think there's something probably coming quite soon, much bigger update in the works, and they have been hinting at that. And plus, Reza have been really quiet recently, and that gets me excited, because when Reza are quiet, it means they're working really hard on something, and it's most likely going to be good. Anyway, let's look at a few of the things in this update. I'm going to focus on one thing in particular, but first of all, we'll just have a look at the state of the game at the moment. So, Hockenheim, yeah, that's a good track to try this. So, one of the things that has been updated, let's see if I can find them now as we go through, I love the fact that you can just go through cars by type, it's brilliant. So, these things, the Chevrolet Impala stock cars, these are great. Brilliant old muscle cars, basically, you know, 238 horsepower, straight 6 up the front, total just mechanical grip car, nothing else, no electronics, and well, it's got a spoiler on the back, but yeah, aerodynamically it's a bit of a brick, but just good fun, and crap brakes as well, because I mean, look at the size of those discs on that compared to the size of the car. It's they're fun. And but the thing about this car is it runs an open diff. So at the back, in between the wheels, you've got a differential axle, which lets the wheels move independently of each other. So when it's going around a corner, the inside wheel can rotate slowly, whilst the outside wheel can rotate really, really fast. And basically, if you were to pick up a car from the back end that had an open diff and you span one wheel forward, the other wheel will go the opposite direction. Really weird. So completely the opposite to something like a spool, which is where the back axle's pretty much solid and both wheels spin at the same time. And much more older technology than something like a limited slip differential. We won't even get into that. But it turns out, or transpires rather, that the car had a bit of a bug where it was still not completely an open diff. So one of the things that they've done with this update is that they have made sure that the diff is completely open. And old muscle cars like this back then, they used to call them one-wheel spinners, the old ones with the open diffs, because if when they're going around a corner, if all the wheel, that outside wheel is trying to go faster than the inside wheel, and it would, one wheel would end up spinning basically and creating a lot of smoke, usually the inside wheel, which has got less grip than the outside wheel. And they've sorted that out completely, so it feels really authentic. Let's jump in. I'll stick my gear stick on manual, because it's a manual 4-speed box. Oh, listen to that straight 6. Isn't it lovely? So let's go and test this out, what they've done. And you can properly tell it's an... you always could tell it was an open differential car, but it did have... It wasn't quite like it is now. It's much better now. So I'm just going to show you quickly. Going to stick it in first gear. Easiest way to find out what your differential is to try and do a donut. That's first. It's got enough torque I can get it into second and do this. Stick it into third. Will it go? Yes. Has it got enough torque to go into fourth? Oh, it's struggling. But it's doing it, So there we go. We're doing a donut, but it's not completely swinging the back end out like you'd expect from a lock differential, whether you had a locked up limit slip differential or a spool. And so that inside wheel there, let's have a look, should be, yeah, there we go, one wheel, the inside wheel is spinning like crazy. So that is feeling properly as it should now, and I've probably just burned the hell out of one tyre. Let's have a look at the HUD. Yeah, look at that. That back right inside wheel is now worn down and very hot, as it should be. So that is one of the things that has improved, and I'm very much looking forward to having a race in VR with these. I love these, you know. It's just great to have a sim like this where you can enjoy, you know, old defunct technology against the new stuff as well. Let's just have a quick look and see if we can see what that one wheel spin thing looks like in the Opala. They should have done. Chevrolet should have brought out this car with one of those paint jobs that changes colour in the sun, because Opala comes from the name opal, which means precious stone, which changes its properties in different lights. So here we go. Look at that inside wheel going. We've got the out one just driving it, but that inside wheel is spinning like crazy because there's no grip on it. So there we go. That's a brilliant thing. So nice one, Reza. Thank you for that. So I said we'd have a look at what's in the update and also the state of the game in general. And when it comes to the state of the game, there are still, you know, things in the game. We'll go to a race for this. There are still things in the game which are a bit iffy. So one of these things that's not changed, has been in there for a while now. I'm going to have to go to the Brazilian series for that, is with the Formula V. Now, I love these. Really want to have a good time with these around Monaco, because I think Monaco is a great track for a car like this, you know. Tight and twisty, and it's famously known as not a great track for overtaking. Well, you could do with cars when they're this small, like the Formula Vs. But what I wanted to point out, the problem this seems to have, and also, funnily enough, it's always had this problem, and this car within Automobilista 1 as well, and it was ported across. Reza made of course, the Reza pack for R Factor 2. This car exhibits the same problem in R Factor 2, but to slightly less of a... I don't know if you noticed there. Did you see that? It doesn't matter if you didn't, because I'm going to show you anyway. So it's a problem with the back suspension. Here we go. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to drive to the end of the... well, drive to anywhere and just stop the car. And you'll see what I mean. So this is one of those little issues that's still in the game. So let's just stop it over here on the chevrons. Right, look at that. The car is bouncing up and down, and if we come out, look, it's just sitting there squatting up and down on the like it's having a bit of a moment with the tarmac. So that's a weird thing. What is that? Why is it there? At least we can see from this that, you know, camber is actually working in the game, as the camber changes with the suspension there. Because that's still a problem. You don't see camber on the replays. But what's that all about? So that's part of the state of the game, which is still a bit odd. Let's go to... Right, here's the bit that I want to focus on. And this is good and sort of still needs a bit of work. So we'll go for a single race, and we're going to use Alton Park for this example. So there we go, Alton Park. Opponent skill level at 110. And I'm only going to use 3 opponents for this so they don't get in the way of each other. And we're going to use let's use the Formula Trainer. I'm using the Formula Trainer for 2 reasons. It's a good example of what I'm about to show you. Also, this has had a little update on its tyres. And in the update it says that it's just the update for several cars for intermediate and wet tyres, but this car only doesn't have intermediate and wets, it has semi-slicks and wets, and this car feels better in general. So I don't know if that's been an actual general update to the tyres, and then maybe with some cars specifically focusing on wet. But also there's been an update to the AI, and the update to the AI is improving their performance in the wet. Now there's been a problem with this in that I said in another video a while back that the performance when you're racing in the dry and you set the opponents to a skill level that you're comfortable with. So with these cars at 110, I'm just about keeping up, so that's good, and that's in the dry. But previously, if I dropped it to the wet, if I changed the weather over here to wet and went out for a race, then all of a sudden they just slowed down like grannies in shopping carts, and there was just no race to be had because it starts raining and you're out in front. They've improved that. They improved it with the last update. It's got better, and they've improved it again. But I have to say it's still not quite there, because in general the performance of any of the AI cars in the wet is suddenly just a little bit less, or in some cases quite a lot less than you have in the dry. And this is a problem in a game like this, where you've got such a weather system that can do pretty much anything. You know, if you want to go and have you want to plan an hour-long race where you've got the first half of it in the dry, second half of it in the wet, there's no point. Even with that great, you can't enjoy that great. You can only enjoy that online with other people, because they're consistent. Their skill level is going to be their skill level. But if you do that with the AI, particularly with this car, the first half of the race you're going to have decent competition. Then you might as well forget the second half of the race, because it'll start raining and everything just will become too easy. Now, this isn't to say that it's the same with all cars, and I have tested this rigorously at the same track with many different cars, and it's more or less with certain cars. So for instance, I tested it with the Chevrolet Omega, and in the wet they're much more similar to their performance in the dry comparatively, but they're still a little bit slower. With this car, they're still unfortunately quite a bit slower. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I'll pop my gear shifter into sequential, because this is a sequential shift car. Now I've got them at 110. We'll just go round and do a lap, and I'll try and keep up with the three cars, driving at the best of my ability whilst I'm chatting away, which is, so if I'm chatting it's always slightly diminished, but my ability obviously isn't going to change whether it's dry or wet. It's just my ability. It is what it is. So off we go. And like I said, whilst we're doing that, I'll just say that this car does feel... I love this car. It feels great at the moment. I know there were changes made to this car in the last update which made it feel, you know, better then, and it feels better again. It really does. Absolutely love it. This and the advanced version. I did notice that in the specs, when you go into choosing the car, it will show you the specs for this car and the specs for the advanced version. Formula Advanced, all that means is that it's running on... What it means is that this car has semi-slicks on it, and you can choose wets. The Formula Advanced comes with full slicks, but it's also slightly higher horsepower and slightly more torque, and it's got a digital dash on it as well. But in the specs, for some reason they've got the horsepower and the torque the wrong way around. It tells you in the specs that this is the car with the high horsepower. It's not, it's the other way around. So anyway, we're at 110 difficulty. I'm, you know, just about keeping up with these guys at 110. And, you know, I'm driving to not the fullest of my ability, but I'm driving at the ability I feel comfortable with whilst talking and trying to look at the camera and talk to you folks. And they've already pulled out a bit of a lead on me. Another thing, by the way, just before I'll show you the other half of this test, another thing with these tyre updates, this car used to really suffer from a problem where you'd put your foot on the brake and the wheels would lock up, so you'd come off the brake, and it was like a delayed reaction. You'd come off the brake but the wheels were still locked for some reason. That seems to have been cleared up a little bit. I don't know if that's a tyre update or not. But anyway, we're on to the second lap now. There, we'll get up past Ireland and stop there. But as you can see, they've pulled out a fair lead on me. We'll go through Ireland. Don't hit the grass. Oh, I've hit the grass. But anyway, you get the idea. They've pulled out a fair lead. So we come out, and all we're going to do, we're going to keep the same skill level. Everything's going to be the same. We're just going to change the weather to raining, which is not saved for some reason. I didn't press save. Stupid boy. There we go. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try and drive to the best of my ability whilst chatting away. But this time, it's going to be a bit of a walkover, is what I'd put it. Like I said, this is different with different cars, but with this particular car, it shows off this problem an extremity, say. So let's get ready. Here we go. You can definitely feel the change to the tyres in the wet as well. And like I said, this isn't a complaint because it's getting better, but immediately, well, I just lifted out that corner because I was going to come up on that guy too fast. I'm catching him already. Well, I've taken a place already. I'm not even trying here, you know. I'm driving it the same as I was last time round. I'm not pushing it because I'm talking to you guys, and comfortably already. Go down the inside. Don't lock up. Don't lock up. You're just sort of casually driving here, and right, I've overtaken two of them already. Oh, he's braked really early. It's not that they're acting like that they've got less grip in comparison to you. It's not like an unfair level of grip to the AI. Oh, I've got one coming up the inside having a look. They're just driving slow. I reckon by the end of this lap, I'll be in first place. Quite easily. Like I said, it's not a complaint because they are much better. And get through on the inside there. Is it going to give me some room? Yeah. There we go. You know, no competition. So if you really wanted to enjoy this excellent weather system with the AI, with changing weather, you can't. Your only solution, if you want to try, you know, AI races in the wet and the dry, is to specifically have either a dry or wet race. And if you can have a dry race, set it to whatever you're comfortable with. Then if you're going to go for a wet race, depending on the car that you're driving, you're going to have to, once you've selected the wet race, you're going to then have to increase the AI skill level, and you're going to have to spend time finding out what their level is in the wet. So maybe you'd have to increase it by 5-10%. Like I said, it used to be a lot worse. Like they would literally drop off, you know, their skill, and we're going to go off at the same spot that we did last time. But you get my point. You can see there what I'm talking about. So yeah, this is still a problem. I really want to. I'm really looking. I know Reza will be working on this. I'm really looking forward to the point where, you know, their ability in the wet is about as good as their ability in the dry. Obviously, they're going to be slower. Everyone's going to be slower in the wet because it's wet. Okay, but so really chuffed that the AI are better, but they've still got a ways to go. Anyway, that was the main bit I wanted to focus on. There have been some other improvements as well, which I'll just go over quickly. So if we go to our test day here, we're at Hockenheim. Brilliant. There have been updates to the... Let me find them. To the Group C's. So their pitch and yaw has changed a bit, and they still feel, you know, like they do, but they feel a little bit, slightly a little bit less twitchy. But I've only had a quick go in these. So there's been an improvement there. By the way, the Genetic G40 Cup, as I said with that II test, I tested with the Amiga stock cars, I tested with the GT4s, I tested with these, the G40 Cup, I tested with the trainers, quite a few different cars, and they're all slower in the wet, but some worse than others. Like I said, the Chevrolet Amiga, much better, much better. These cars, the G40 Cup, they're another one like the trainer. They really slow down in the wet. They really do. So I haven't gone through all of the cars. What Reason might be doing is gradually working on, you know, I know they're doing a lot of things specifically for each car. So they might be working on each car's skill set individually, and at one point they'll all be updated. I know that they've changed the braking distances or the way the AI brake in this new update. But lastly, anyway, I'm waffling on. Lastly, let's have a look at the biggest new change, which is the new stock cars. So we've had the 2019 stock cars, the Chevrolets. We had the 2020 stock cars with both the Toyota and the Chevrolet. Now we have the 2021, which has come as a surprise, I know, to a few people on the forums. They're very pleased about it. If you don't like the stock cars, well, much more of the same, I'm afraid. But if you do like the stock cars, you're going to love these because, you know, if you like looking at things in very small, minute details, these stock cars feel ever so slightly different to these stock cars, which feel ever so slightly different to these stock cars. I have to say they're great. And out of the two as well, I mean, they are exactly the same weight and horsepower. Both got a 6-speed sequential gearbox, but they do feel just slightly different. So the Toyota Corolla here feels more like the more slightly awkward, slightly tantrumy, slightly more twitchy racy car. And the Chevrolet here feels a little, just ever so slightly more like the cool, calm, collected, slightly more planted, less rough around the edges car. It's ever so slightly different, the differences between these two cars. But it's there, you know? And, I mean, they feel great. Like all of the stock cars, you've got that very central, far back driving position. So you're literally sitting behind the middle door posts. But they do feel great. And I know, you know, people who love this series... Really, I don't know why I'm blipping the throttle there. I don't need to. People who love this series are going to love these cars for free. You know, even though we've got so much to look forward to, there's paid content coming. There's updates which Reason have been talking about to the way the multiplayer system works, which I will say, after a bit of a disaster on a server just recently with an online sim racing league, not their fault, it was the software. There was a problem with the dedicated server crashing. There are still some issues there, but I've got every faith that Reason is sorting that out. For instance, there's still an issue that if you run not a dedicated server but a server from the client, it will still occasionally bump you out of your own server if you get to the start of a race and go to adjust your pit strategy. For some reason it just knocks you out. But there's so much good stuff. Every update, something improves. Many things improve. And even with a hot fix, or not a hot fix, but even with a small 250 meg update, we get new cars, and like I said, these just they feel great. They are more of the same when it comes to stock cars, but they do feel great. Just lastly, talking of stuff that just feels great, there has... I'll need to go to the... Yeah, there we go, to the prototypes. This car has had some sort of update to the suspension dampers. I love this car. It's ridiculous horsepower. Not too ridiculous, but a lot, you know, 575 horsepower. Loads of torque. Tons of aero. You got traction control. You got all the mod cons on this. But this like the Opala, which has come such a long way, especially in terms of force feedback and the way it handles, since, you know, what's it? Just over a year, about a year this game has been out now. This is one of those cars that came out later, but since it came out has come on as well. Those improvements to the force feedback that were done in one of the last updates have improved all of the cars. But I don't know what they've done to the dampers, but it feels great. And I want to end on this note because this car, just in general, it's so loud. It just feels great. The brakes on this thing tear your face off. I mean, it stops so quickly, and it's just one of those cars. It's great. It's great to drive in VR. This car, you're in VR and you look around this cockpit. It is amazing. But you know, it's really fast. And look at this. No drama. And we're stopped from a ridiculous amount of speed very quickly. What have we got going on here? Let's turn off the traction control and the ABS. So with the ABS off, see how fast we stop. Super quick. Let's try the ABS on high. This car gets me high, it really does. It's just awesome. The way it corners everything, and stop. Still getting a bit of slip there. And by the way, just before I finish, that brings me on to a point. If you want your ABS, you know, that's with the ABS on high and you're still getting a bit of slip. If you want it to kick in a lot earlier, come to your setups, go to drivetrain, and take the anti-lock brake. Let's be ridiculous and take it up to 90. That doesn't adjust the strength of when it of how it kicks in. So it's this here. You've got 3 settings: off, low, and high. But what we've just done is affect when it kicks in. So it's now going to kick in much earlier in the braking. So here we go. Slam on the brakes, and you can hear it there, that, as it slows down, that thing that the ABS does, and it stops so quickly. But and I've stalled it. But this car, if you haven't, there's so much content in it. It's wonderful to have a sim like this, which does so much. And what I like about it, one of the things I really like about this sim is the way it models turbos and transmissions and drivetrains. You know, there's open differentials, spool differentials, and limited slip differentials in this, and they all work as they should do. And also your gears, you know, it's one of the things I've always wished R Factor 2 would do, and R Factor 2 has got some amazing stuff going on with it in its own right, but it doesn't really do gears properly, in that if you have a manual gearbox, you know, like a H shifter or kind of a dog box kind of thing going on, and you want to use your H shifter with it, you can get away without using any sort of clutch or banging it into gear whenever you like, really. In this, if you don't use your clutch or you bang it into gear without rev matching, it's not going to shift. You can wear the teeth of the gears down in individual gears. You can lose gears in this sim, which is part of the damage engine. that's actually one last point I want to mention. The damage modelling in this sim is great. You know, you can knock out individual gears, you can lose wheels and everything else, but I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos, so I'm going to mention it again. Still would like to see even better. I think this sim's got a lot of potential for really good damage, because now look, I'm doing 250 kilometers per hour straight into a wall. My steering wheel has gone mad, but the thing's still running. It's not going to drive well, but it's still driving. I love the fact that you got the visual damage. The fronts come off, the wheels come off there, and it's crabbing like crazy because I've lost a wheel. See if we can look back there. There's parts of the car over there. Love all of that. But how is it still driving? How at 250 kilometers per hour straight into a wall, it's still going. I'll probably burn the engine out very, very quickly. Suspension's broken. In terms of functionality, that works very well, because obviously you're not going to win a race like that, but I'd love to see it so there was a more severe damage setting. And I'd love, last thing, Reader, I've mentioned this many times, I'd love to see, now that we've got the Chevrolet Omega, I'd love to see the Lotus version of that car, the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton, the road-going version, 177-mile road-legal super ship. Would love to see that. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. Like I said, if you like my videos, you can subscribe to my channel with that little button down in the corner, and you can tell me what you think in the comments. Maybe you don't like my videos, maybe you like to tell me why, and I can improve, but I hope it's been useful. I'm very happy. Things are getting better and better. Looking forward to the AI getting even better and everything getting even better. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you later. Thanks very much. Bye bye.